Hello, welcome back to Life Enrichment with Hank Ballinger. Today I want to talk about there are no problems, there are simply opportunities for solution. Now I know in life there are a lot of days that just seem tough. There's problem after problem at work, at home, no matter what you're into. Sometimes there's just many problems. But we need to learn to concentrate on the solution to the problem rather than the problem itself. So I want to try and touch on that today, and I want to look at some guys who were really good at concentrating on the solution to the problem rather than the problems themselves. So first of all, never. Now I know when you're studying logic, it says never, use never or always. But in this case, we're going to say never concentrate on the problem. Never concentrate on the problem. Always find the solution. Now, there are always solutions to every problem. Sometimes it's not easy to find the solution, but that's where the answer comes from. That's where the being able to be ahead of the pack and being ahead of everybody else, that's where you're going to make money. That's where you're going to succeed, is when you see the answer rather than the problem. So as you're going about your life, if you want to become an entrepreneur, you want to set goals, you want to accomplish those goals, you've got to get really good at looking for problems in life. Now, the interesting thing about that is most people want to avoid the problems. A true entrepreneur is out there looking for the problem. And then he says, now I found a problem. Now I come up with a solution. I make money. And that can build my wealth. So as an entrepreneur, look for problems, but go further and also look for the solution. So what ideas do you have? Now, everybody should set goals in their life. What goals should you have? Well, that's up to you. You've got to come up with goals that suit you. Are you scientific minded? Are you mathematically minded? Are you a stay-at-home mom and your solutions need to be, how do I run my home better? How do I figure out how to get better prices when I go to the doctor and go to the drugstore? How do I solve problems in my life? Everybody has problems. Not everybody gets good at finding the solution. Now, the better you get at finding the solutions, the easier life will get. And I love what Zig Ziglar always used to say. He'd say, life is tough. But if you consistently do the right thing day after day after day, life gets infinitely easier. And he's right. He's right. So today I want to look at three guys. Now I've got them in this order for a specific reason. First of all, I want to talk about Cornelius Vanderbilt. Now, probably most people have heard of the Vanderbilt family. They're still a family that has a great deal of wealth. But Cornelius Vanderbilt lived in the 1800s, and that's when he got his start. And he started out with riverboats, and he would take people and freight from one destination to another in boats. And he even got to where he would take people from east to west in America, or from west to east. And a lot of the rivers across America, he had trolleys, and he was taking people and freight back and forth across America and made a very good living at that. And then at one point, he realized things have changed. He realized there's a problem with my system. Things have changed, and now not as many people go on boats because they're building railroads across America. And he says, I've got to change. He sold every boat he had and got into railways. A very bold move, to be sure, but it worked for him. And his family is still rich today because of that idea. And he was willing to change. He saw a problem, but more so than seeing the problem only, he saw the solution. I sell out of boats. That was something that once worked, but now rail works. And I'm getting into rails. And he did very well with rails. But that's not the end of the story with Mr. Vanderbilt. Let's go on. If we look at J.D. Rockefeller, very creative guy. He saw a problem. He said, everybody in America needs to be able to stay up longer than just when the sun goes down, everybody's got to go to bed. So he said, I will try to pull oil up out of the ground. And then I will refine that oil into a product, coal oil and fuel oil, that they can use in lamps. And now they can stay up later, reading, accomplishing tasks, doing chores. And their day now becomes longer, more productivity for mankind just because of this guy's idea. But then he also said, well, there's also another problem. The fact that people are all across America. So now I've not only got to get them the crude oil and the daughter products from crude oil, I've got to get them coal oil and fuel oil, and I've got to get them all the byproducts from this crude oil, but I've got to get it all across America. He said, how do I transport that from where I am on the East Coast all over America? He turned to Mr. Vanderbilt. And you see, Mr. Vanderbilt not only took other freight, but then Mr. Rockefeller got with Mr. Vanderbilt and said, listen, I need my oil taken all over America. And you've got the transportation all over America. We can work out a solution here. Remember, there was a problem. He found the solution. He said, Mr. Vanderbilt, your trains will not go empty. I need my freight taken all over America, and you ship all over America through rail, but I will make sure that none of your trains are empty. When you're going, you can take my oil. When you're coming back, you can bring the empty drums, and we will fill them back up, and the next time you go out, you will take a full drum, and when you come back, you will be bringing empty drums, and you won't have empty freight cars. So see how these two guys work together, and it caused both of them to exponentially grow their wealth. Now let's look at another guy. Another guy was Henry Ford. Most people know Henry Ford, a great American. He came up with the idea, not only that he wanted to produce a car, but he wanted to do it at a very low cost, that the average person in America and in the world could afford that car. Well, it seems like an easy task, doesn't it? Not at all. That's a monumental task. There was a problem. How do you build a car at a reduced price to where everybody can afford that car? Well, that's the problem. He just saw the solution. He said, well, I can produce that car because it's a time where people need jobs. And I can hire those people and we can produce those cars. In 1908, he was producing 25 cars a day. The Model T, that was the big car that really pushed it. He was producing 25 cars a day. And as he started producing these cars in mass, 25 per day, he put it out to the general public to say, who wants a car? And he got so many people trying to buy those cars, he had to stop orders coming in. He said, we can't fill all those orders. Again, there's a problem. So he said, what is the solution? So he came up with the idea of the assembly line. And he started massively producing these cars to where in 1913, he got to where he could, with the assembly line, he could produce a car in 93 minutes. Going down his assembly line from the start to the finish, it took 93 minutes to create a car. Now, he was turning out a car every few minutes, but it took 93 minutes from the time the car started till the time it was at the end of the assembly line to be finished. So you could start with no car and 93 minutes later have a full Model T car. And this ramped up production to where he could sell it to the masses. But there was, again, another problem. Here's a car that he needs, but he's got to propel that car. And that's the one thing that in Henry Ford's life that really fascinated him. When he was young, he saw a tractor that wasn't pulled by mules or horses. It was generating power and driving itself. That fascinated him. So when he starts massively producing a car, he says, I have to have a fuel that pushes that car. And he says, where do I get a product that is highly combustible, but very clean and doesn't gum up my engine? Well, then he goes back to a fellow by the name of J.D. Rockefeller, who was getting oil out of the ground. And at this time, Mr. Rockefeller was producing coal oil, fuel oil, but he had a byproduct from that process that he was just dumping on the ground. And today we call that product gasoline. And Mr. Henry Ford says, I need a product that's highly flammable, very combustible, but doesn't have a lot of buildup, a lot of carbon, a lot of scoring, a lot of gunk left behind, so I can push my car with this product. And Mr. Rockefeller said, I might have a solution to that problem. And then gasoline came about the same time that the car was popularized by Henry Ford. And the two worked together, and obviously, problem solved, both became wealthier. Now, when we look at these guys, this is something that every one of these guys, and one of the reasons I picked these guys, before these guys came along, nobody was shipping and people and freight all the way back and forth across America. Nobody was pulling up oil out of the ground and shipping it all over America and all over the world. Nobody had created the car that was massively produced and able for the common man to buy. These guys started from nothing. If you have nothing, how are you any different than these guys when they started? What ideas do you have? Where are you at? What ideas do you have in your mind? Because just like these guys, you could have the next big idea, but you have got to get that idea from just a concept in your mind to being a viable option to yourself and to society and to mankind. You can do it. You can do it. These three guys started from nothing. You can do the same. Anybody can do it. Help us help you. Here at Life Enrichment, we want to help you enrich your life. So if you have ideas and there's something we can help you with, no matter what idea you have, if you want to send that idea or portions of that idea that we can help you with, or maybe we can motivate you, help us help you. Because here at Life Enrichment, that is our idea. That's our dream. We want to help you because just like these guys, you can start from nothing and become very wealthy. Thank you for watching.